So now in today's class, we'll try to see some of the important concepts which are advanced from one version to another version. Okay. Before moving to some of the advanced concepts, let us try to solve a particular problem which you know already. Something like parenthesis evaluation. Do you know this one? What is the meaning of parenthesis evaluation? Which you have already gone through in data structures, right? If you are going to give an expression, whether the expression is balanced or not. Do you know this concept or not? Yes, right? For example, if I say I am going to have open parenthesis, open flower parenthesis, open square parenthesis, open parenthesis, right? Then if I am going to give closed parenthesis, closed square parenthesis, closed flower parenthesis, this is a kind of balanced parenthesis or not? Balanced expression. For example, if I say open flower parenthesis, open square parenthesis and closed parenthesis and closed flower parenthesis, is it going to be balanced one? No, it is going to be an unbalanced one. Like that, if we are going to give one expression as input, you need to define whether the expression is going to be an balanced or not. You have to define, right? So basically, in order to solve this one, what you are going to use in your data structures? I think data structures you are using the language like C language, right? Right? In C language, you are going to use the concept of stacks, where you are trying to write every operation. What are the operations that you can able to perform? So basically, you are going to use internal data structure as arrays, and you are trying to create various kind of methods. One is pop method. Before performing pop method, you have to push certain data, and you can able to check whether there are some empty like is it going to be empty array or not, or which is meant for to read the top of the element. You can go for peek. If you want to perform whether an element is there or not, I can go for search operation. Like that, you are going through various kind of operations of the stacks, right? Basically, in C language, you need to write everything from the scratch, But if you go for Java language, we have a concept called collections, right? We have already gone through this one. Collections are used to simplify our task, right? So various kind of collections are there, which is available in a package called java.util package. In this package, we have a class called stack class is there, which is used for to perform again all kind of operations, push, pop, peek, is empty or search operation, all those things, right? With the help of this stack class, we need to perform whether the given input contains balanced parenthesis or not. That is our task now. Is it okay for everyone? Yes, right? So basically, if I am saying that stack is following what kind of principle? Last in first out or first in last out, right? Based on that only I am saying it is going to be say something like push and pop, right? So when you are going to insert certain data, from which location you are trying to insert the data? On the top end you are trying to insert data, from the same end only you are going to getting the data, right? So whatever the element that you are going to insert at the last, that element is going to get at the first. That is the meaning of last in first out. Or if I say the element which is going to be inside the first, which is going to come out at the last, we can say it as first in last. First in last, right? So now in this class we will try to implement this program, whether the given expression is balanced or not, right? So let me try to create a class. The class name is, I can say, expression evaluation. Right? You need to tell the logic expression evaluation. So this is where our program is going to start its execution. So I have taken the static method, public static void main method. So for example, my string is something like string str1 equal to something like opening of flower parenthesis, opening of square parenthesis, open parenthesis, closing parenthesis, closing of square parenthesis, closing of flower parenthesis. Then what is the result you need to display? The expression is balanced one. The expression is balanced one. If I say string str2 and I am giving the input something like this, open flower parenthesis, open square parenthesis, and if I give open parenthesis followed by square parenthesis, and again a square parenthesis followed by close parenthesis, what is the output you need to expect here? Imbalanced expression. The given input contains imbalanced expression, right? What is the reason it is imbalanced? Because these are not properly closed, right? So once we open a particular parenthesis, it has to properly close with the same parenthesis. But here what they have closed, instead of having the closed parenthesis, they are using closed square parenthesis, right? That's why you can say it as non-balanced expression, I can say, right? So for these two, I need to get the output like this. Not only this, if you are going to give any kind of input, you have to respond as some proper output. If it is valid, it has to be balanced. If it is invalid, you have to show it as non-balanced, right? So for that, you need to write certain logic, right? So what I can do now, I am going to pass the given string to another function, right? For example, I will create the function name as eval function. I am trying to pass string 1. And if this evaluate function is going to return some boolean value. If it is going to return the true value as response, I need to display as sysout as balance, else sort of non-balance, right? Hope you understood why I have written, right? So whatever the task that you are trying to implement, that task should be some kind of in the form of method approach, so that you can able to apply modularity concept. Wherever you want to use it, you can able to reuse it, right? So that is the reason I am trying to implement in the form of method, right? So here I am trying to call directly. Can I call directly? If I want to call it directly, can I go with static method? Static. And what is the return type it is expecting? Boolean value. So return type is boolean, and the method name is eval method, which is getting the data as string data. I am taking it as str1, right? So why it is throwing an error? Because it has to throw some return value, assuming that I am saying it is true in order to avoid the error, right? So hope you understood this logic entirely, right? So generally when you go for an interview or any kind of HackerRank website, all those, they will give the code like this. And they will provide various kind of statements here, like eval method will take string as input and provides boolean value true if expression is valid. Else, like that they are going to write some set of statements. Based on that theory statement, you have to implement the logic. They will give the center thing also, main method, fill, all, everything they are going to give. You have to give, right? I think you have written some kind of edX course, right? There also you can able to observe this kind of thing, right? So this particular 15 to 17 lines of code you have to extract or you have to implement it, right? That is our task, right? So what we can do, ma? Tell me. So in str1 we are getting some kind of expression, right? So if you want to make it checking whether they are going to be properly closed or not, how we are going to do it? First we have to extract one by one or not, right? If you want to extract, what you can do? Can I go with some kind of for loop so that each and every index position can I get the data? Yes or no? Can I go with for each loop? Is for each loop is meant for what? Arrays. Is it going to be what? String. Can it applicable? See, for each loop is meant for arrays. You have to make understood. For each loop is meant for arrays and iterators, not for the strings. Okay now. So you have to know that. If you want, I can show it. For each, you can observe here, iterate over an array or an iterator. If you press enter, and if you are going to write something like what is the for each and every iteration what you are going to get character. Let me take the character as C, and if you take here as str, what is happening here? It is throwing an error, right? So for each you should not use here. Hope you understood, right? So instead, what is alternative one? For loop. For int I equal to 0, I less than str dot length I plus plus, right? And each every iteration you are going to get one character. Then what I can do? Str dot character of I. Very good. Str dot character of I, so that I can get one character every time. Right? So can I declare one character? Character ch equal to character of I. Okay. So I hope you understood. For each and every iteration, you are going to get one character, right? So now how we will move further? So if you are knowing the concept of arrays, as implementation of the C language, it is okay, right? So you can declare one array. Here you can declare one array, and for each and every iteration, try to add the data. And you can do the normal process as in C language, right? But I don't want to write that many lines of code. So in order to simplify our task, I can go with a predefined class called stack, which is all in which package? Java.util package, and you know which is of type generics. So what did I am trying to store here? Character. Stack s equal to new stack of something like this, right? So which means this class contains various kind of methods again. Push method, pop method, peek method, isEmpty method, all those things are there. So we can able to use that directly, right? So now here I am trying to extract the data. Is there any use of extracting the data? Instead, can I push the data into the stack? But when I am going to push the data into the stack, if you are able to clearly observe how we are going to push the data into the stack, whenever you are going to observe any kind of open parenthesis, whatever the parenthesis might be, if it is going to be open parenthesis, I am going to push into the stack. If it is going to be a kind of closed parenthesis, I need to extract the top element from the stack and trying to compare, right? So here I am trying to check for ch equal to str dot character of I if ch double equal to a kind of open flower parenthesis or ch double equal to a kind of square parenthesis or ch double equal to a kind of open parenthesis. Then what we can do? We can able to add it, right? Okay, right? Then if it is a kind of any kind of open parenthesis, I am going to push into stack. For pushing into stack, what you will do? Push method, push of ch. I push data, right? Yes, good. So how many number of times we are going to get open type of parenthesis? I am going to simply push into the stack. For example, suddenly you got any kind of closed parenthesis. Then what you can do? What is the logic you have to follow? You have to pop the topmost element from the stack, right? So if you want to pop the topmost element from the stack, what you can do? You can call s.pop method. And that method you have to check. Right? So which means that if this block is going to be exited, if block is going to be executed, definitely, which means that I got any kind of closed parenthesis. For that, what we can do? If ch double equal to, I can say closed square parenthesis, else. If ch double equal to closed parenthesis, else. If ch double equal to closed parenthesis, right? So you have to write 3 times of if statement. Instead, can I go with some switch case? Can I go with some switch case or not? Yes. Switch of ch. What are the cases are there? Case, close parenthesis. This is one thing. One more case, closed square parenthesis. Good. One more case, closed parenthesis. Right. So you have to compulsory go with the break keyword when they are matched. Okay, good. So here what I am trying to check, if you got the closed flower parenthesis, what you need to expect from the topmost element of the stack? Open flower parenthesis, right? So which means that what you have to check, topmost element. What is the topmost element you can get? S dot top. Sorry, S dot pop. So S dot pop contains what data? Topmost element. So what you need to check here, whether it is going to be a kind of flower parenthesis or not, right? So what you can do now, if S dot pop is not equal to, right, you can write double equal to also operation. I am trying to write for converse operation. S dot pop not equal to, can I write like this? See, we can write the logic in many ways. I am going to write like this one. Is it okay for everyone? Topmost element ఏమవుతుంది, ఫ్లవర్ parenthesis అయితే then it is going to return the true actually, right? If it is not the case, I need to return what? False. I just made return the converse case. Is it okay for everyone? So this one is related to square parenthesis and this one is related to open parenthesis. Is it okay for everyone? Yes. Fine. So is the code is now perfectly correct? No, right? So for example, if I got the input like this, try to observe. Only I got this is the expression. All are something like a closed parenthesis. Then is the if block is going to be executed? Then purely stack is going to be empty. Then it is going to enter inside the block, inside the switch case, and it is checking for s dot pop. Then it is going to throw an error or not? Yes, right? Then you have to handle this case also, right? So what you can do now, before entering the switch block, I will try to check for whether the stack is empty or not, whether S is empty or not. If S is empty, what I can say? Return, I will simply return as false. I will simply return the false. Is it okay? Yes. Suppose for example, if the entire expression is going to be a kind of valid expression, then what will happen? The entire for loop is going to be done. And what about the stack? Stack is contains any data? Stack contains no data, right? Which means that I can say s dot is empty. If the stack is empty, it will return simply true. If the stack is not empty, it will return the false. Based on that, I can say whether it is going to be balanced or not. Okay, now fine. And one more thing here, if I are able to observe, here this code is perfectly correct, right? As per the explanation. But if I got any kind of open parenthesis, this block is going to be executed. And what about the remaining lines of code? It is going to be executed or not? Executed. I don't want to execute it. Then what I can do? Can I write in else block? Yes, I can write in else block. Instead, what is the alternative one? Can I go with continue keyword? Can I go with continue keyword so that instead of executing the remaining lines of code, it will directly move to the for loop, right? Yes. So is there any modifications I need to do? I think it is not. Just check, because we handled already here. We already handled that case, right? If more number of closed parentheses are there, before entering to the switch case, we are trying to check for s dot is empty. Then it's going to return the false here itself, right? So now, what is the output you are expecting in this particular program? As I am passing the string 1, we need to have the balanced as output. Let us check balanced as output, right? For example, in place of str1, I will pass str2. What is the output you have to have? As not balanced, right? In place of this str2, I can passing like this. Again, you need to get the output as not balanced only. If I pass something like this, again you have to get the not balanced only. Not balanced, right? So for all kind of cases, it is going to be evaluating perfectly. If you are going to observe, if I give the input like this, purely a kind of open parenthesis, is it going to be not balanced? Yes. For example, if I give all kind of closed parentheses, what is the output you are expecting? Again not balanced. So I think all cases are satisfying. Is there any inputs will you give to check whether this program is going to fail? Right? So as we handle here this case, everything is going to be done perfectly. Right? So this is the simple Java code to implement expression evaluation. Right? See, if you are able to observe the C language code and this code, here you have reduced the number of lines of code or not. It is because of the class stack class. Okay, now fine. Okay, we'll move one more important concept, that is try with resources sum. Try with resources. Guys, you know, while performing exception handling, you are trying to use various kind of keywords, right? Try, catch, finally, throw and throws keywords, right? So basically when you are going to go with any kind of exception, you have to go with the respective procedure, so that if any kind of problem is going to arise in the try block, JVM is going to create the respective object and will try to search for the respective catch block. And if any kind of final block is there, final block is going to be executed irrespective of whether it is going to have exception or not, right? So if we go for example, try with the resources. For example, so I am going to write inside the main method only, all main method. I am going to write try followed by, for example, file reader class is there, which you know, which is meant for to read the data. Fr equal to new file reader of file location, you have to pass file location name, and then if you are able to observe, csc3.java, csc3.java, right? So after type block, compulsory you have to follow up with catch or finally block. Anything is one is enough, right? So catch block and go with the exception E. I can write the catch block, and then I am going to write certain final block. What is the need of final block? To compulsory execute the block of lines of code. Right? So at what situation it need to be executed? So basically, when you are going to create any kind of resources, those resources should be properly closed. Otherwise, they are going to be misused. Am I right or not? Something like, for example, I am going to write int k equal to 10 by 0. Definitely at the runtime it is going to get an exception, right? But before executing this line of code, at line number 12, you have opened a resource called fr object. While explaining the class, I request you to always close the opened object, right? So if any kind of exception is going, actually where you are going to write the fr.close method, here you are going to write. But when an exception is going to be raised, JVM will transfer to the corresponding class block. Is the fr.close method is going to be executed? No, it won't possible to execute. That's the reason I said you have to always write close methods or any kind of free up the resources inside the finally block. Inside the final block, right? But it is going to throw an error. That throwing an error is because of one thing, object accessing. Another thing is because you have to handle again whether if fr object is not there, then it is again throw an error, right? So that should be again surrounded by this one, right? So you have to make it initialize again like this. Hope you understood, right? So what I did, if there is any kind of open resources are there, those open resources I have to properly close. If you want to properly close, I have to go with compulsory finally block, right? So if you are able to observe this particular code, in order to handle the program efficiently, I have used how many lines of code? Is it complexity increased or not? Yes. So we are moving for the concept of try with resources. Try with the resources. So the advantage of moving for the try with resources is, one is readability is going to be increased. Readability is going to be increased, and complexity of writing the code is going to be decreased. These are the two advantages for moving for try with the resources, right? So what does the meaning of try with resources means? You no need to write any kind of final block first thing. If you want, you can write the final block, but generally final block is meant for to free up the resources, right? So if you want to make the free up the resources, I can just simply use try block only. In try block, you are going to pass parameters. You are going to pass parameters. Inside the parameters, you are going to define all kind of open resources. All kind of resources what you want to open. That's it. This is what the concept of try with resources, which means that what inside the try block I am having a parameter. In that parameter I am going to write all the resources what I want to execute. Right? Then how it is going to work? At this point of time, you don't need to close the also. You need to call fr.close all those. How it is going to be happen means, whenever try block is going to be executed, and your JVM is going to comes out of the try block. JVM comes out of the try block, meaning that when JVM is trying to exit the try block, automatically it is going to close all opened resources. All open resources. That is the advantage of try with resources. For example, you got at the line number 13 a kind of exception. JVM is going to create an object, but at any cost, JVM is going to get exit from the try block. While exiting the try block, it is going to check for any kind of parenthesis passed or not. Then it is going to simply close all those objects. Right? There are certain situations you may get doubt. You may try to create something like this. Something like file f equal to, the syntax you have seen, right? New file of something syntax, and file reader f r equal to new file reader of f you are going to pass. Am I right or not? This is the another syntax. At the situation you have opened two objects. Then how we are going to try with resources concept, right? That is, you can do simply by appending here itself. Inside the parenthesis only, you are going to write something like this. For example, buffered reader br equal to new buffered reader of, what is the object you have to pass in buffer reader? Reader object. That's it. So like this, how many resources you want to create, those many number of resources you are going to just simply pass in the try block. So they are separated with semicolon. Something like for loop, for initialization semicolon, condition statement semicolon, like that you have to go with, right? Always they are going to be separated with semicolon. So this is a simple concept which you would for to demonstrate try with the resources. Right? Simply you have to understood whatever the parameter that you have passed, all those parameters are going to be free up while exiting the try block. Right? This concept was introduced in the version Java 1.7. Okay, na? Earlier we have concept simply try block, catch, finally all those. Okay, fine. Let us try to see one more concept, interfaces. Generally, what is the meaning of interfaces? Collection of abstract methods and public static final variables, right? So let me try to create a program. Interfaces 8. So they have implemented this concept in the interface Java 1.8 version. So basically, how we are going to create an interface? By simply using a keyword called interface keyword. So the interface name is I am creating as human. It contains public, static, final, int, age equal to some 45. So these are general structure of variables which are available in the interface. And what about the methods? Public, abstract, return type, method name. Method name something like sleep, right? So these are general definition of interface. So by default, whether you are going to write public static final or not, or public abstract or not, they are going to be internally contains all those things. Public, so which means interface is a collection of public static final variables, public abstract methods, right? So I am going to execute this one. Main method I am trying to write. So this class I am trying to implement human interface, right? It is throwing an error. That error is I need to compulsory override the sleep method. Override the sleep method. So I am trying to override the sleep method. This is the out of sleep method from main class. Sleep method from main class. And to execute the sleep method, I need to create the object for it. So can I create the object for it? Interface I equal to new interface 8. Okay, I dot sleep method. So it won't show. It should be interfaces I dot sleep method. Then if you are going to execute it, you will get the output as sleep method from the main class. This is generally the concept what you know already. Okay, now fine. But from the version 8.8 onwards, they come up with some new features. Those new features are something like one is default method. Default method. Another one is static method is there, which will allow, and private methods are also going to be allowed. Private methods are also going to be allowed. Right? The reason why they come up with these concepts is, first let me tell the default method. The main reason is, for example, let me try to create one more class, public class. So can a Java file contains more than one public class? No, it should not be. Right? Assuming that the class name is interfaces 88. Earlier class is what? Interface 8. Both are implementing human. For example, I am going to copy once again and I am trying to paste it with interfaces 888. What is the meaning of this one? I have created one interface and I have created one interface and I have given to all of you. All you interested, and you have implemented the sleep method. Now suddenly what I did now, I made something like this: public abstract void eat method. Then what will happen to all of you, all 60 people will throw an error. The error is something like you all must and should have to override the eat method. See, interface 8 you got error, interface 880 you got error, interface 888 you got error. Right? So this is the reason. Even if I am going to modify at one location, that is going to be affected to all the 60 people or all the people who are implementing the respective interface. That's the reason they come up with default method. Default method, right? So how we are going to create the default method means simply public, the keyword you have to use as default, and the void it method. It method sys out of it method from interfaces. From interfaces. So if I simply use the default method, now is there any errors for all the implemented classes? No. If they wish to use it, they can able to use it. So because they are implemented, if they wish to use the it method, they can able to use. Means all the default methods are going to be logically available. Default methods are logically available, and if they want to override it, they can able to override it. They can. If they want to override it, they can able to override it. Right? So I will try to remove all these code to make simplicity. I dot sleep. Can I call now default method? Can I call like I dot eat? Yes. It is because of it is logically available in the interface side. If I am going to execute it, eat method from the interface, you got or not? Can I able to override it? Yes, you can able to override it. Public void eat sys out of eat method from main class. Now what is the output you are going to expect? Eat method from the main class. Is it okay? So I am going to just give one implemented method. If you are interested, you can able to use it. If you are not interested, if you want to override it, you can able to override it. That's it. That is the advantage of default method. Okay now? Fine. Next we will go with the static method, which means that interfaces will support again static methods also. Public static void run method. Is there an error you got? No, which means it is allowing. Sys out of run method from interfaces. Interface, right? So if you are able to observe, default methods are logically available, but static methods are not logically available also. But when you go with the concept of classes, in the classes static methods are logically available, but they couldn't able to override. Here static methods are not logically available and couldn't override. That's the reason we can call it as method hide. Method is simply hiding here, right? So if you are able to observe here, try to do it. Public static void run method sys out of run method from main class. Run method from main class, right? Now can I call I dot run method? Can I call I dot run method? What is the output you are going to get? You are going to get run method from the main class. It is a kind of warning. Actually, it's a kind of static method. You have to call with respect to the class name, or you have to call with respect to, you can call directly also, because static method can call the static method directly, right? So can I call directly run method? Yes. Run method from the main class, or you can go with interfaces 8 dot run. Right? So here you may get doubt, right? Sir, is it really overriding or not? You may get, right? So if you want, I can show. Can I remove this public? If I remove the public, what will happen? There is no error. As you are not getting any error, which means that it is not overriding. Why? If I are saying that something overriding, what will happen actually? Scope should not be decreased, right? For example, if I say here public void it, if I remove the public, it is going to throw an error. Why it is throwing an error? You are trying to decrease the scope from higher level to lower level. You should not decrease the scope when you are trying to override. But if you want, you can able to increase from protected to public or private or like default to public. If you want, you can increase, but you should not decrease, right? So that's the reason it is throwing an error. As it is showing some kind of red mark, like you can understood that it is going to be an overridden concept. If you are able to observe here, as it is not throwing an error, which means that it is not overriding. Or you can go with some kind of annotation is there. In Java, we have various kind of annotations are there. @ override. What does the meaning of this one? You need to compulsory override the method. That is what indication you are giving from the external side through annotation. So when you say that, it will throw an error because this should not be overridden. Okay, now fine. So this is the advantage of static method. So what is the advantage of static method? I would like to give one method to all the people. If I make it abstract, everybody has to have a problem. But I don't want to make them problem. I want to give one method. That method should not be overridden by anyone. Then I can go with static method. If I am going to give one method, that method can be implemented by anyone by themselves. Then I can go for default method. Then another kind of method is private method. Private void read method. Some method sys out of read method from interfaces, right? So what is the advantage of making or defining read methods inside the interfaces? Means if sometimes certain method wants to use certain methods inside the interface itself, then I can go for simply read method. For example, eat method wants to call read method, they can. That's it, right? Method is something like a kind of piece of reusable component. If they want to use it in multiple methods, observe here, right? You will get an error because it should be overridden, or else public default void e method, and these two methods wants to use read method from the interfaces. Then what you have to do? Instead of writing the same code again and again in the multiple methods, they can go with calling the respective method. Am I right or not? That is the advantage of making the private methods. Private methods, right? Right. Hope you understood. So in the later versions of Java, right? In the later versions of Java, interfaces will support default methods, static methods, and private methods. What about the normal methods? Public void listening. If I am going to say that, why it is throwing an error? Okay, there is some unimplemented method is there, na? This is an listening is an unimplemented method, right? Okay, but if you are able to observe, it is going to be a kind of error. Why it is showing an error? It is a kind of normal method, right? Normal methods are not going to be allowed, right? So concrete methods are not. So you have to make abstract methods do not specify a body, right? So you can simply understood with this example, it is not going to allow concrete methods. Right? You may get certain kind of question again. Here you are going to have public default void it, which is having a kind of look like a kind of concrete method. If I say there is certain kind of a code again related to a kind of animal class interface. The interface name is animal, right? So animals can also sleep, right? Or animals can eat. Then what I can do? Public default animal eat method from animal interfaces, and this will be eat method from human interfaces. Now, as it is the main class, can able to implement the both interfaces, because through interfaces multiple instances is going to be supported. So human comma animal, right? I think eat method is there. Yes. Can we override it or not? Public void eat. I can able to call I dot eat. I can able to call I dot eat. Can I make here as human superclass reference? Can we do it or not? Yes. I dot eat. Even now also you got eat method from the main class only. If I make something like animal, here also you got okay. In animal we don't have sleep method, right? Right, again run method from the eat method from the main class. So far you don't have any particular problem. But if you are going to go with the classes, definitely you have the problem this also. But if I remove the eat method, definitely you are going to get an error. This is what you call as diamond problem again, right? So through interfaces, if you are going to go with default methods, again you are going to get diamond problem. You have to understood that, right? So duplicate default methods named eat, right? So from two interfaces you are going to get two concrete, it look like kind of concrete methods only, default methods, right? That's the reason it is going to get an error. Which method I need to consider logically here, right? So this is what the problem with default methods again, right? Hope you understood. Okay, we can stop here and we will try to take further concepts in the next lesson.